Hey everyone! So first of all, yes, I am outside without a coat on in December, and no, that is absolutely not normal, but I'm enjoying it while I can. Now it is warmer up here on the deck in general, so it's probably about 50 degrees right now, which when the sun is shining, which it is, I feel so nice up here. So I thought I would take advantage of the lovely weather and get these two evergreens ready for winter. So I have here two Castle Spire hollies from Proven Winners that I just got couple months ago. So I had this vision in my head when I was first going to get two evergreens of having something in my garden that would be very low maintenance, that I wouldn't have to do anything with over winter, because evergreens in the ground, you just let them be for the most part, right? And they survive winter. And then through choices I made and just lack of knowledge on evergreens and things that can happen to them over winter, I realized that my plan won't happen exactly as I had thought. So I thought I'd be able to throw lights on them, push them up against the windows, see some Christmas trees from inside the house, but that is not what's going to happen. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I'm going to do to hopefully make sure that these two plants survive the winter, and then we will go through the process. So the first issue that I'll have to deal with is one that I went into knowing that I was making a decision that probably isn't for the best, and that is that the two evergreens I have are only hardy down to zone 5. I think they're zones 5 through 7, and again, ideally, when you're overwintering something outside in a container, you want to be 2 zones colder, which would be 4A. I like to go 3 if I can, but these plants were $20 each at Gethsemane Garden Center, so I figured, let's get the cheapest plant. I love how they look, but if they die, I mean, I don't want them to die, but if they do, I will feel less terrible about it, knowing that it was only $40 total wasted on an experiment versus, let's say these were $50 total, or $50 each or more. I would feel a lot worse, and I probably wouldn't have spent that money on zone 5 evergreens. But they're too large to move down to the garage. They are too large if I had the greenhouse set up to fit in there. So these are going to be plants that have to survive outside in the winter. So because of that, I am going to try to insulate the pots. And I say that with a furrowed brow because I don't know how much material I have to insulate the pots. So we're just going to kind of run around inside my house and see what I can grab. But not only is the zone an issue, but there are just issues with evergreens over winter that can occur that I never really thought about as somebody that didn't have any potted evergreens really before. I think I had one on the front stairs a while ago, but I never did anything to that. And then all the other evergreens I ever saw were just growing outside. I mean, I would see some people wrap their evergreens in parkways, but I never really understood exactly why, and now I do. So if you don't know some of the issues that evergreens can have over the winter, there's a few different things that can impact them. So one is the wind, the amount of sun that they get, and the amount of water that they get. Now, going into this, I would assume that evergreens should be in the full sun because they're evergreen, and don't you want to give them as much sun when the daylight hours are already limited? And no, that's not true. So similar to the perennials that drop their leaves, you don't want to have your evergreens, again, not possible if you can't move them, but you don't want to have them in the direct sun, especially in the afternoon when the sun's more harsh. So when the temperatures start to drop in the winter, so does the air moisture levels, and that can lead to plants drying out. If the ground is frozen, which is definitely going to happen with my pots that the evergreens are growing in, then the plant isn't able to take up a bunch of moisture from the soil because the soil is frozen. And if moisture can't move through the plant, then can obviously injure or damage the plant. So because it's already more difficult for water to get through the evergreen in the winter just due to the cold temperatures and the freezing soil, anything that will provide additional stress that can dry a plant out, like wind or sun, can make that even worse, because now not only can it not take up enough water, but there's all these other external stressors that are drying out the plant even more. So that is why, along with, again, my perennials that do drop their leaves, I'm going to move these over, right over there, into the area that has the most shade. So the sun is coming from that direction, so against this wall it'll get the morning light, and that's really it. So it'll get a few hours of sunlight in the morning, which again is not as harsh as the afternoon, so I'm hoping that works out well. Also, wind, putting it up against the house is going to decrease the amount of wind than, let's say, if I had it out in the middle of the deck. So I'm hoping that, and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do, by moving it in the location in the corner that's the shadiest next to the house. I'm going to use my patio furniture as wind blockers as well. I'm hoping that I can create an environment that will help protect it from any excess sun or excess wind over the winter. So here are the steps that I'm going to be taking. First, you want to make sure that your evergreens are thoroughly watered before the soil in the pots freezes, which we've been getting enough rain here that they have. Again, in my climate, in my garden environment, I deal with my pots getting too much water just from Mother Nature than getting too little water. Now, if it hadn't rained in like the last week, which it's rained I think 2 or 3 times in the last week, I would water them myself right now. We still have a couple weeks of 40s, maybe even 50-degree temperatures, so I will still be coming out here and see if they need to be watered. But again, in general, I know that typically hand watering is not something I necessarily have to do in the winter, but that doesn't mean that I don't check. But if you do have to hand water your evergreens, just make sure you are watering them before the soil in the pot freezes so that they go kind of into winter with the highest moisture content possible, but again, not so wet that it causes root rot for your plants. And then when the pots are frozen, I don't water because the pots are frozen, so that's not going to make any difference. It's not going to absorb in the soil. So like I said, now because we have such an extended period of abnormally warm weather, I'm going to be keeping an eye on moisture content in my pots much more often than I would be if we kind of had a normal Chicago winter. Next is to add mulch to the top. Now, I am like 75% sure I have mulch in my garden closet. I probably should have looked before I sat down and started filming. If not, I might gather up some leaves just down from like the front of our yard area from the trees in the parkway and put those on top, just something to keep the moisture levels a little bit more constant instead of like being super moist, super dry. Adding that layer of mulch can help just maintain that moisture consistency. It doesn't really do a lot in terms of like keeping the root ball warm because it is just an inch thick layer of mulch, but any extra protection I'm willing to take with my root balls. Another thing I'm doing is at the recommendation of Proven Winners. So again, these plants are Proven Winners brand. I did not get them from them. I bought them from the garden center, but I messaged them on Instagram. So if you do ever have any questions about Proven Winners plants, they are pretty responsive on Instagram. But they recommended Wilt Proof, which is an anti-transpirant, which my brain always wants to say antiperspirant. But basically what this is going to do is to decrease the amount of evaporation of water that's occurring through the leaves. Again, we want to help this plant retain moisture throughout the winter, not so moist that the roots rot, but we want to keep that moisture within the plant itself. So let me read just a bit from the label because that is something that I was not good at when I first started gardening. And then through my horticulture classes, they really stress the importance of reading the labels thoroughly, and you learn a lot when you're reading them too. So just to go over this, the excessive moisture loss from plants causes severe wilting, shock, or plant failure. It strikes in the winter when drying winds and frozen ground deprive plants of their natural moisture intake. Wilt-proof forms a clear, flexible film without interfering with growth. One application will last 3 to 4 months, so I should be fine after applying it today. Like I won't have to come out here throughout the winter and reapply. As the outside layer wears off and powders away, another layer forms, and this process continues until all the layers have worn off, which takes that 3 or 4 month period. And then as far as application for winter protection, you may spray wilt-proof anytime as long as the spray does not freeze on the foliage while spraying. That's why I'm doing it right now, because the weather is perfect and we are definitely above freezing and will be for the next few days. Spray arborvitae, cypress, juniper, and cedar in late fall when plant moisture in these species has retreated to the root system. Do not use on African violets. I wasn't planning to. That's good to know. And it says wilt-proof will turn blue spruce green temporarily. Interesting. So it doesn't say it on here, but I did also watch a video that when you spray it, you want to spray it at a time where there's still about 3 hours of daylight for the wilt-proof to cure on the leaves. And we are right about at that now because it's around 1 o'clock and I live in a place where it gets dark at 4:30 in the winter for reasons unknown. So I'm going to spray it first, and then I will show you kind of the environment I'm going to try to set up to give it protection. And you also want to spray this until it's like heavily coated, all the leaves a little bit dripping, but you don't want to also get it everywhere. But you want to make sure you have a good coverage of the product. So let's go ahead and spray my holly trees. Well, I just had to transfer the wilt-proof into a different spray bottle because for some reason the nozzle wasn't working. And before you ask, yes, it was in the spray position. I didn't leave it in the off position, but I tried it on all the nozzle positions and it wasn't spraying. So I've transferred it to here, and then because that bottle isn't transparent at all, I'll probably put this back in the original bottle, and then if I ever need to use it, transfer back to here. So let's go ahead, and again, I'm going to spray top and bottom of leaves until there is runoff. All right, so both of them have been sprayed with wilt-proof. Now I'm going to show you where I'm going to store them, and then I'm going to go inside and gather up whatever I can to try to provide some insulation for the root ball. This corner is where they will be going, right along with the beech plum tree. So they'll just be right here up against the wall. And then I'm going to use the longer couch like this way as protection from the wind. And then I'm going to use this one kind of turned over there as protection on the other side. So a few things. I don't have mulch. I swear I ordered a bag of mulch, but there's a bag of potting soil in there, so either I misremembered or I ordered the wrong thing. Not that I can't use potting soil anyway. Also, I don't really have as much material as I hoped to act as insulation, so I have put some pots in there that I'll show you in just a second. So I still think I might order some mulch though to still add to the top, and I'll just put that out here in the next week or so, but let me show you my setup. Now, I would just like to remind everyone, I'm not an expert. I am trying things in my garden and seeing how they work, but kind of similar to how I've had success with the perennials out front, I've moved the two right here hollies and the beech plums up there up against the wall. And then in the center here, because I couldn't get the couch right up against the pots without breaking the branches off of the beech plum, so kind of in that gap, I've just put in, again, pots that have soil in them but no plants, although that one is empty. And I might see if maybe I have some more, or I might take some from the front to like fill in this gap here and just a little bit more protection all the way to the top of the pot. But I'm hoping that that at least works for some insulation for the root ball. And then I'm going to move the chair, which I obviously haven't moved yet because then you couldn't see anything. I'm going to move the chair right here. So here's the finished look. With the chair in place, it does feel to me like it will be a good amount of protection, I'm hoping. I also put in the like outdoor rug, which is torn, so I'm going to get a new one next year, but I figured for now I'll use it as maybe some more insulation in there. I don't know, throwing as much stuff up against the pot because I do everything here with a high level of professionalism. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but there's also a lot of yard work still happening, which again is crazy given that it's December in Chicago. Something else I know people do, like I mentioned earlier, is burlap their evergreens, but my thought process is that the furniture kind of acts as burlap would anyway. So I don't know how much more extra protection burlap would have, but let me know if you think I should burlap these as well. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to work yet, but this is what I'm going to try. So I will keep you updated throughout the winter as far as, well, if there are any changes I need to make, how often I do end up watering these, if at all. Again, there's a slight overhang here, but not enough to cover the whole pot. If it does snow, even though snow is cold, it actually works really well as an insulator. So what I like to do is I will shovel the snow up against the pots, just again as a layer of protection from the cold air and the wind. So those are some of the tasks I might do in the winter, and then come spring, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, if you do have evergreens in containers, try following these steps. I would definitely try the wilt proof or something similar. I would definitely move your pots closest to the house, somewhere where they're not going to be in full sun, especially in the afternoon. But other than that, kind of experimenting here, and we'll see how it goes. Also, I think someone wants to say hi. Can you say hi, Jack? I can't believe it's also warm enough that I can have the doors open. So that's going to be everything for this video. If there's anything else that you think I should do to give these the best chance that they can, let me know. I also might try to find some more stuff that's just shoved in the crevices. We'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.